Dear participants of the Collins Conference, let us present our research work on the syntactic concepts analyzer based on the English complex sentences with an object clause. Presented by Mariia Bihdai and Yuliia Kalymon. The aim of our research is to single out syntactic concepts based on the English complex sentences with an object clause and to create a program that determines these complex sentences in the imported text and identifies the syntactic concepts represented by prototypical constructions of the research sentences. The research tasks include the following. First of all, to find out all formal peculiarities of the English complex sentence with an object clause. Then to extract 900 English complex sentences with an object clause from the corpus of contemporary American English as a research material. Then to analyze the structure of the English complex sentence with an object clause in lingual-cognitive aspect, namely their propositional structure and conceptual characteristics. After that, to single out syntactic concepts represented by typical constructions of the research sentences. And finally, to create a program that singles out complex sentences with an object clause and defines syntactic concepts represented by typical constructions of the research sentences. The research is corpus-based and implies methods of linguistic modeling, conceptual analysis, and frequency analysis. Modeling method was used for building models of different types with the aim of their further application in the automated systems working with language data processing. Conceptual analysis was applied to reveal the content of the syntactic concepts and their verbalization in the English language. And with the help of frequency analysis, relative frequency of types of complex sentences with an object clause. Our study is based on data from the corpus of contemporary American English as one of the best genre-balanced corpora, thus focusing on the applied analysis of language, its functioning in real environments and text, which is important for the study of various syntactic structures. This corpus contains more than 1 billion words of text from different genres. It provides a wide range of opportunities for linguistic research. The interface allows you to search for exact words or phrases, wildcards, lemmas, parts of speech, or any combination of these. Before extracting the research material from the corpus, first, all formal peculiarities of the English complex sentence with an object clause were investigated and analyzed from the structural point of view. A complex sentence is a composite sentence that consists of a main clause and a subordinate clause. The subordinate clause is joined to the principal clause in two possible ways, syntactically or asyntactically. A syntactic connection is the usual type in modern English, accomplished using subordinating conjunctions, while a syntactic connection, possible only with some types of clauses, is accomplished without any connectors. Object clause in the English complex sentence usually is introduced by conjunctions such as that, if, whether, correlatives, either or, whether or, connective pronouns, who, whoever, what, whatever, which, connective adverbs, where, when, whenever, why. Additionally, object clauses may refer to any verbal form, either finite or non-finite, some adjectives that express a perception, desire, feeling, assurance, and states, some adjectives denoting wish or intention. In general, there are two types of object clauses: non-prepositional, like in the example below, I know when I am wasting time, or prepositional one, I'm not certain of what he did. As in a corpus of contemporary American English, it is possible to search for a specific part of speech in any form and sequence. The sampling of data has been made with the help of the queries, which include the search for a sequence of different parts of speech or particular words in any form plus subordinating conjunctions. The presented research is conducted in the field of cognitive syntax. A cognitive approach to grammar was introduced by Lanhacker and further developed by Croft, Fillmore, Lakoff, and others. Syntactic constructions and their conceptual representation have been the main scientific interest for numerous studies in Ukraine and abroad for the Ukrainian and other languages. According to Ukrainian linguist Yuliia Petrivna Boyko, at the level of each specific complex sentence, one of the components of the subordinate relations is realized. Thus, according to her, syntactic concept is understood as a syntactic means of verbalizing the concept of subordinate relation. The syntactic concept type is determined based on singling out abstract meaning components that are picked out from the characteristics of the prototypical subject-predicate-object relations and have cognitive value in world comprehension. An important aspect of syntactic representation is the use of language level, verbalized with constructions, and mental level, verbalized with concepts in this process. For each construction, the semantic model which represents the propositional content of the construction typical meaning must be defined. In this model, the participants of the situation during its language description are presented in the form of semantic roles, which allows correlating nominal elements in the syntactic structure with the substantial construction plan. And while describing semantic models of constructions, we have used the following semantic roles introduced by famous linguist Fillmore. Agent, who deliberately performs the action. Theme, who undergoes the action but does not change its state. Patient, who undergoes the action and changes its state. And cause, what caused the action to occur in the first place. In our study, the following concepts have been singled out: action, state, impersonality, and experiencing. I will show you the structural and semantic models on the basis of a syntactic concept state. First of all, a syntactic concept state has the following conceptual characteristics: orientation to an agent, orientation to agent state, orientation to cause agent state, orientation to temporal characteristics, and represents the knowledge about the existence of a subject and its involvement in emotional and mental activity. As a means of the concept representation, the following constructions are considered to be prototypical. The first one is a two-act and circumstantial construction. For example, as in this sentence, parents today are worried about who they are calling into their home. And second one is two-act construction. For example, I'm happy that my article has stimulated so much discussion. These two constructions are represented with the following verbs: to be worried, to be confused, to be sorry, to be certain, to be terrified, to be frightened, to be afraid, to be anxious, to be aware, to be determined, to be glad, to be happy, to be interested, to be pleased, to be sure, to care, to feel, to be prepared, to regret, to like, etc. The two-act and circumstantial construction and the representative means of the syntactic concept state reveals the following structural models, as we see on the slide. And a semantic model says agent feels himself, herself in a particular way because of cause. In this structural semantic model, subject-agent represents the characteristic orientation to an agent, state-verb in the function of predicate verbalizes state, object-cause in the form of subordinate clause objectifies the characteristic orientation to cause of agent state, and adverbial modifier denote temporal characteristics. Act construction as the representative means of syntactic concept state reveals the following structural models, like in the example below. I'm not sorry for what I said. She was frightened of what she heard from her etc. And semantic model is the same. Agent feels himself, herself in a particular way because of a cause. And in this structural semantic model, a subject-agent represents the characteristic orientation to an agent. A state verb in the function of predicate verbalizes state, and object cause in the form of subordinate clause objectifies the characteristic orientation to cause of agent state. Part of our research was to perform frequency analysis of the researched English complex sentences with an object clause. From the corpus of contemporary American English, 900 English complex sentences with an object clause have been selected. And as I mentioned before, all of them were subdivided into 5 genres: fiction, spoken, popular magazines, newspaper, and academic journals. And the English complex sentences with an object clause occurred more frequently and almost equally in the fiction and spoken texts rather than in popular magazines, newspaper, and academic journals, what we can observe in this table. There are 2 types of object clauses: a non-prepositional one, when subordinate conjunction refers directly to the predicate in the main clause, and prepositional one, when subordinating conjunction refers to preposition linked with the verb in the main clause. And among the selected 900 sentences, 90% was non-prepositional one and 10% prepositional. This slide we see the percentage of subordinating conjunctions occurrence in typical constructions of the researched sentences. And as we can see from this image, the most frequent subordinating conjunction is that, 44%, and the least frequent ones are whatever, 1%, and whoever, also 1%. In this table, we can see that concepts action and state are mostly represented in fiction and spoken genres, and the least of all, they are represented in academic journals. When we are talking about syntactic concept impersonality, it is presented most oftenly in spoken and the least of all in popular magazines and newspapers. And syntactic concept experiencing occur most frequently in fiction and least of all in academic journals. In general, the most frequent are sentences in typical constructions of which the syntactic concept experiencing was found, 41%. Then 28% we have for state and action, and the least frequent is the syntactic concept impersonality. On the basis of created structural models, we have created the Syntactic Concepts Analyzer program. The main window of this program consists of 3 sections. Top section is where we have the imported text. In the bottom left section, the program identifies the complex sentences with object clauses, and the subordinating conjunction is highlighted in red. And after that, the program identifies the syntactic concepts and lists them in the bottom right window. So we can see that concept experiencing is represented by typical constructions of the following sentences: I know that you love me, he knows that it's wrong, and so on and so forth. And for example, concept state is represented by typical constructions of the following sentences: I am so sorry that I was not there for you. The president is happy that GDP is growing. In this slide, we can see the user's work template. So apart from executing the complex sentences selection and syntactic concepts selection, a user also has several help windows. For example, he can check the frequency analysis of subordinating conjunctions, or he can read about the different syntactic concepts like we have here: action, state, experiencing, or impersonality. Research has shown that in the English complex sentences with an object clause, there are several typical constructions based on which the syntactic concepts action, state, impersonality, and experiencing have been determined. Each of these constructions as the representative means of syntactic concept reveals several structural and semantic models, and the presented analysis of syntactic concepts can be used for modeling the conceptual space of syntax of not only different types of complex sentences but also compound sentences. And the results of the conducted linguistic research became the basis of the algorithm for the created program. The program singles out the English complex sentences with an object clause in the imported text and identifies the syntactic concepts represented by prototypical constructions of the research sentences. The presented program is a prototype which has shown effectiveness while analyzing the text, which is not overloaded with style peculiarities and complicated sentence constructions. And further research will be concentrated on improving the algorithm to consider complex sentences with more than one subordinate clause. Thank you for your attention.